A very good morning to you. Welcome to yet another week, of course, a Monday, the first day of the working week, and I'm super excited. Of course, we are super delighted to be here again once again. It was a well-rested weekend, and yes, we are up again to give you all the topical conversations making the rounds in the country. Once again, welcome. My name is Janice Kabum.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a beautiful day to be alive and a great day to rise and shine wherever you are. My name is Uyai Aneken, and I am thankful to be here this morning. I'm sure that you've been catching up on all the conversations this weekend across all our social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. And also, I hope you kept up with all the buzz on Twitter at SpectrumT Online. A lot was happening there, breaking stories, visitations, things happening around the country. Thank you for choosing Spectrum Television, and thank you for choosing Rise and Shine.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for choosing Rise and Shine. Good morning, Uyai.
Good morning,
Of
Jan.
course, a lot of us missed Uyai on Thursday and Friday. Yes, but she's here. I had a different person on set with me, of course. Mr. Speaker, Francis Edet was here, and it was a good outing for both of us. But we are happy that you're back on set.
Glad to be back here, and I missed y'all too.
But how was your weekend? A lot of things messed up with my mental health. A lot of news happening across the country, and one of which was the flood that submerged lots of building around the Lugbe axis in Abuja. And then the most disheartening was the story that happened in Calabar over the weekend as well. A story of some medical students that went on a tour across the Marina River, and the boat capsized, and they went into the water. But as we speak, I know that also there was more like a Navy safety boat that was sent for the rescue, but scatty news here and there about some not making it out and all of that. But it's really a pathetic story, and we just hope. I'm happy also that the governor of Cross River State, Senator Prince Basio too, has also said that there should be some kind of investigation and probing into the cause of that boat capsize. And just a reminder now about the one that happened. Is it in Kwara State now? Yes, in Kwara State, where we had over hundreds of people, die in a boat mishap. And seeing it happen again in Calabar, it was quite a sorry situation. And of course, students of the medical school in University of Calabar, it was really heartbreaking to see.
A lot of heartbreaking things, like as you just kept speaking about that, we're wondering what exactly is happening on our waterways, especially with low maintained boats, and that might be causing these accidents. Then again, we're also looking at the fact that the rains have been pouring heavily, so maybe there's a heavy weight on the river, something that people that travel that route will really understand. But then it calls for for us to be safety driven and conscious at this time. Just don't get on any boat or any other transport vehicle for that matter without being sure that it is fit enough for whatever you want to use it for.
People begin to ask questions. Did they use safety jackets? If they did not, why exactly did they not use safety jackets? And if they had used safety jackets, what happened in the boat that would have caused that kind of mishap?
Of course, like you have said, the governor has asked for a probe, and let's see what the results will be. But usually it's still painful when you lost people. Once, whether the probe comes out or not, the results can bring them back. But maybe just to put in safety measures against other occurrences. But a lot of things are happening in the country. Some people, some trends here and there. The president is being the president. Expectations are building. The weeks are gradually turning into months, and Nigerians are keeping fingers crossed for when we can now cross this is what the president said to this is what the president has actually done. I think something that also caught my attention in the course of the weekend was the fact that former EFCC boss Abdul Rashid Bawa now had said he cannot be questioned or investigated without because prior to his detention by the DSS, there was no warrants, there was no charge against him. So he's saying you can't proceed with this because initially there was no charge. So Nigerians are now asking, okay, these are the same questions we've been asking, way before all of this started. Is this vendetta? Because how do you take a man, put him behind detention without any charges? What exactly is he there for? So most of these questions now, they're now
but there are charges, misappropriation of funds and misuse of office.
Is it a court that gave
Those
it to
are charges.
him? Is it a
But
court
if you're
that
saying
gave
that there was no warrants to go arrest him, that's a different story altogether. But then again, we'll see that people would want to like look for the loopholes to make a statement out of it and say, okay, this is the reason why I shouldn't be probed. So if you're coming with equity, like they say in law, come to equity with clean hands. Okay, so what's his fear? Why would we begin to look for those loopholes to say that, oh, you're not supposed to, is it within the window of the Constitution? That's another question. So
for those kinds of
things. And yeah, let's not also forget, on the lighter note now, I think the Wellingtons were also trending for the wrongest of reasons. And it broke my heart to see that Nigerians can actually react in such manner as to wanting the downfall of other people. I don't know how the story emanated, but I just kept my cool and continued to follow through. And it was quite obvious that the stories were not true. It was just too obvious that it wasn't true, because even the video that trended as of yesterday, Sunday, we saw Banky Wellington preaching a particular message about something that he struggled with personally. And of course, we saw the sweet Adesua sitting in front of the the pew and listening to her husband.
That's a trend that has called, has even brought a lot of people to think twice again. We need to start suing bloggers in this country. We need to start suing
for
bloggers
reporting false news.
False news. Then again, let's not even forget that the originating blog did not name tag the Wellingtons. Before I go and call him to his wife, they did not name tag them. But then more terrible, if they find who to sue. If they find who to sue, they should sue them to the last couple, because we are getting away with slander and libel in this country just for chasing clout and all of that. Do you imagine how this is going to affect their family, affect their loved ones? There's a lot of Nigerian families that look up to the Wellingtons because their marriage is out there, and a lot of people look up to them as role models. Do you imagine what this is going to do to a lot of people? And I do hope that the Wellingtons take it legally serious. And just probe, so that they don't keep doing this with other persons. And I've read a lot of legal back ends with these kinds of stories, things that have happened in Akwa Ibom and how it ended. Some people have been locked behind bars for just starting rumors about people. You never know. Do you know if they have the mental
strength and capacity to withhold these kinds of things?
No, it's a terrible one.
It is quite a terrible one.
And another thing is the fact that a lot of Nigerians took this hook, line and sinker, swallowed it, pursued it,
and we're even instigating for a divorce immediately. And this one should not go and pray about her husband. In fact, just divorce him. Come on, how mean can we be? How mean can we be?
We are so irrational.
I'm telling you.
Fake news is really killing us.
It is.
Because for whatever reasons, we don't know how true or false this is. And you know how netizens can be. They'll go back and dig that Aniola was his first love.
It's quite a pity. But let's look at something as part of our flash news this morning. Of course, you're tuned to Spectrum Television, and the show is Rise and Shine this morning. Let's take our flash news. Our flash news is that today, the 26th day of June, the world over is celebrated as International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. And of course, we see that drug abuse has become a menace in the country. It's not just a menace in the country, but it's a pandemic around the world. And the need to talk about it is very, very important. I think last week also we had the deputy commander for NDLEA on set here with us last week, Thursday now, is it Thursday or Wednesday, talking about the same issue and the fact that there's going to be like a symposium this morning in Uyo, to sensitize people on the need to shun drugs and illicit trafficking as well. And of course, the need for those that are already neck deep into drug abuse to come out, because there's healthcare services for them, and the need to stop the stigmatization of those, you know, that have come down or gone neck deep into drug abuse.
Yeah, definitely. Stigmatization is one of the major problems. I remember that a couple of months ago there was an initiative pushed by the NDLEA, not just to see, drug abusers as criminals,
or crime
yes,
itself.
as a crime itself, but we needed to see them as people who had mental related issues and needed psychological analysis and all of that to reintegrate them back into the society. That's also an angle, because some of these things start with a little too much, and before you know it, these persons become dependent on these things, and it just erodes your life and everything. And it's good to extend a hand to someone around you that you see going through this. And on days like this, even the United Nations sets its apart to just educate people, sound the alarm with these issues, just to know that the numbers are rising and seriously alarming. Yes, with people that are involved with abuse of drugs, and then we're not even talking of human trafficking and even trafficking of drugs itself. You find people over last year, we saw a lot of arrests being made by the NDLEA. You see old people, 60s, 70s, grandmas, being involved. We've seen, drugs being packed in all kinds of things just to make their way at the airport.
If you're following Femi Baba Femi on Instagram, you'll be shocked at the revelation of how people can be pack drugs even in custard containers.
Exactly.
Even in Pampers, people are pushing drugs, and then you begin to ask, how did they even do this? What's such ingenuity, in terms of creativity, in terms of smuggling drugs and trafficking drugs? Is really alarming. But then again, the theme for this year is people first: stop stigma and discrimination, strengthen prevention. People first, stop stigma and discrimination, strengthen prevention. So it's more like the conversation this year, according to the theme, is for us to begin to strengthen prevention. Let's talk about it. Go to schools, from even primary schools to secondary schools to the universities. Let's see how we can talk more about illicit trafficking and drug abuse. Now, there are a whole lot of substances that people abuse. In Calabar, Uyai, young people sniffed suckaway to get high. A lot of funny things that they do to get high. So if they start at that age of primary school and secondary school to do all of that, what do you then think of these young people when they get into the university? They will do worse things. And just like you said, it's just taking away livelihood from them. Exactly. It's taking away productivity from them and destroying even the economy, destroying their health and all of that. So it's really something that we need to continue to talk about and push, that awareness out there for people.
People first is it's a nice ground to put the theme of this year, especially when we also look at the financial benefits, quote and unquote, from drug trafficking. It's a lot of money, churning in billions, of in the years. Look at the tons that they busted last year and burned. Trafficking and drug abuse, it's a complex situation, and that's why you find out that nations don't even attempt to stand on their own to break into this syndicate or try to bring out people. We have international alliances to be able to cater for these kinds of needs. But when we say people first and stop the stigmatization, the other hand is the fact that there are people that are trying to come out of this, yes, but there are no enabling environments for them to do so. Who can they speak to without being discriminated? It happens everywhere around. People overdose on even paracetamol, and then it becomes addictive, and that becomes a problem for them. Someone has maybe had an accident, returned from a war, needed a particular medication until it became an abuse. So sometimes it doesn't always start out from someone just wanting to be a crackhead. It can just be a medical thing that went
somebody's trying to calm the pains in his body because of one incident or the other, and then beginning to take too too much of prescriptions and all
Exactly.
of that. So it's really a big thing, and we'll keep talking about it. Of course, you know that the media would definitely push agendas for things like this. So let us stop drug abuse, and of course let us also stop illicit trafficking as well. Over now to a major story for the morning. Yeah, Twitter is buzzing, and I know that one trend that we have seen since yesterday has been, where is Tinubu? I don't know why that question is being asked right now, but again, looking at our major story for this morning, it's no longer news, of course, that the president was in France for the Global Financial Summit that was initiated by France President Emmanuel Macron. And if you look at all of the instances, of course, the objective of this particular summit was, one, to discuss how poverty has, ridden the African countries. Another issue that was supposed to be discussed was how, to manage the debt profile of African countries. Another thing that was also to be discussed was, I think, climate change or something like that. That was supposed to also be discussed. Of course, we saw President Bola Tinubu, who left the country on Thursday to France for that particular summit. But so far, so good. A lot has been said from this particular summit, and I think we should even rather start from a particular tweet by his spokesperson this morning, before we even talk about how Nigerians are reacting to what they think, was the outcome of this particular summit. We see that President Bola Tinubu as well met with had a lot of sideline meetings, one of which was meeting with Nigerians in diaspora. And I think we'll just take a look at that particular one and then listen to his speech and then come back to this conversation.
Nigeria belongs to all of you, all of us. Our diversity is an asset if we know how to use it for our prosperity. Born of the same father, in the same house, except living in different rooms. We must promote unity, stability, and economic justice for every one of us.
Of course, the president visiting Nigerians in diaspora and speaking, like you said, there's a lot of sideline meetings that he's been having. Part of, what is causing the critique by Nigerians, more like, why is he missing in the most important thing, which is the summit, and, busy and about with sideline meetings when leaders of nations are sitting down, to foster solutions on the financial setbacks that we are experiencing as the world and as Africa most especially, not to even speak how highly Nigeria sits on the table of that financial setback. So Nigerians are wondering, why exactly did you now leave the country for that purpose, but yes, that particular engagement, but yet that's the one thing that you're not necessarily doing. Beyond the meet and greet, are you really there having this conversation? When you hear other world leaders bring to bear the challenges that are facing in their country and how they have decided to collectively come together and work towards a solution, then it would also help you to build up strategies for yourself as a leader. Nigerians have been dragging with no small limits, because this is a problem. And I think part of the biggest questions are, if we start out like this, because this is his first official trip, if we start out like this and not having the president attend the most important conversations, what are we really expecting? But then some people are of the opinion that this shouldn't be news to a lot of Nigerians,
especially when we come back to the fact that a lot of town hall meetings,
exactly,
and what do you call it now, presidential debates, where I don't know if I should say
sidelined.
You know, so it's not just the blame on the president at this point in time. Nigerians are also blaming the party of the All Progressives Congress
Great.
that this is exactly what they did when they had the campaigns, always looking for excuses to buttress the fact that the president could not attend a particular debate where he and other counterparts of his were supposed to like dish out what they're supposed to be doing for the country and moving forward. And then it brings us back even to the Chatham House conversation, where questions were being allotted to different people to talk. And then at that point, what was said that, oh, the president is doing that because he's going to be having an all-inclusive administration, and so he is giving these people a fair chance to also express themselves. But it's quite a sorry situation at this point in time.
Yeah.
Nigerians are saying, look, those important conversations that you were supposed to handle as the president, and this is your first outing as the president of Nigeria, why were you not there? But let's take a tweet from Dele Anonuga now. Is it Dele Anonuga? Of course, we take a tweet from Bayo Anonuga, yes.
Now he says, after a successful Paris outing, President Tinubu off to London on private visit. Now, President Bola Tinubu on Friday concluded his official trip to Paris, France, during which he had an outstanding participation in the summit for a new global financing pact hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron. Aside his participation at the event, where he represented Nigeria well, President Tinubu also held high-profile sideline meetings with fellow heads of state and government, global business leaders, and chief executives of leading multilateral and development finance institutions. Of course, another subject, from around the world, the summit afforded the president the opportunity of projecting on a global stage his advocacy for widening the fiscal space, economic justice for Africa, as the world accelerates the pace of energy transition and the urgency of addressing the pressing issues of poverty and climate change. He continued saying President Tinubu, who was initially scheduled to be back in Abuja on Saturday, will now proceed to London, United Kingdom for a short private visit. The president will be back in the country in time for the upcoming Eid al-Kabir festival. That's a statement released by Dele Alake and of course was tweeted by Ananuga. It still brings to bear all of the reactions that Nigerians are bringing with regards to the movement of the president at this point. It was meant to be the first official trip for the summit, and now we're hearing that the president is going for a private visit of his own. Now, there will be no grounds to say that the president will not have a life of his own because he's the president, but then the instigations are, what exactly does this private visitation entail? Is it about managing something in the health of the president, or is it just family that he needs to meet? But Nigerians will continue to hold speculations about the movement of the president. Remember that something that the former administration was laden with was the frequent travels and out of office time of the president. Is this something that the APC is going to be continuing, with the Bola Ahmed led administration? But several conversations and dragons, like the Nigerian parlance we put it. I don't know if you saw the trend that had Nigerians dragging Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala for avoiding a picture with the president and all of that. But Nigerians, and then again, let's not forget that netizens always find a way to put a hole on the armor just to drive conversations. But these are things that Nigerians are highly concerned about at this time. More like what Nigerians are talking about. Where is Tinubu?
Yeah, talking about even the dragging of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala would also bring it back to the whole conversation at the Paris in Paris as regards to the Global Financing Summit. Now, you see that she was also applauded for her eloquence and a very intelligent speech. More like she helped the country to salvage the condition of the country by putting the country in the a map of things concerning that particular summit. But then again, there was also the dragging that came, that she also sidelined the president. But then again, we also saw her post pictures later on of that engagement, she and the president. And then she also took to her social media on Twitter now. We share that tweet now. When it's ready, we have that tweet. So let's just put it up for us to see. This morning, she also said, that Nigerians should leave polarization of certain things, and then just work for the peace and unity of the country. So certain things, according to her, are not really necessary at this point in time. She says, Nigerians, please relax. Re-Paris, interesting attacks from both sides, sadly shows the depth of polarization in our society. I post photos in the order received by accompanying staff or colleagues. Reading more into it is unwarranted. Let's unite to build our country and not attack. So these are the words of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Nigerians and netizens will just pick one thing or the other and just amplify it and make it too bogus and make it an issue. Because, of course, when we look at it truthfully, there's nothing really attached to it.
There's really nothing attached to it, At the end of the day, she was there, the president was there. They were able to exchange pleasantries as, elder statement for the country. Let's not try to politicize everything. And like she said, there are more pivotal conversations we need to be having as a country instead of seeing who's on whose side. I remember part of the tweet that I heard, there was a picture of the president holding her hand firmly, and then some tweets were saying, we hope he doesn't hold your hand too seriously so that he does not transfer corruption and all of that. And we're like, okay, what exactly are we pursuing as a country? But these are more things that are happening and what's been getting Nigerians talking over the weekend. Definitely. It was really a big buzz. We know it trended at #1 at some point over the weekend, and Nigerians are just looking more so to express some form of disappointment and frustration, just over things picked out. And now it's not like the president was overall absent, at the summit. It was more like in certain discourse that Nigerians, tagged
needed him needed to see
more
him.
important, and he was, unavailable to field the questions. But that's about it.
Yeah, definitely. We also expect the country, the president, to be back in the country very soon as well.
That's going to be this week. About Thursday and Friday is Eid festival, so he's expected back in the country, especially, let's say this was not tagged as one of those trips he's supposed to be going, so it's just a quick thing, and the president will be back to the country. But so far so good. Today is Monday, and we'll be looking at the affairs of the country, even as it is being run in his absence, in the next couple of days. We know that the Vice President Kashim Shettima is around and will be fielding in some major responsibilities on behalf of the president at this time. Of course, it's Monday, it's a brand new business day, and apart from these things that have been trending from the weekend and the summit, we just lay that to rest. But then again, we see that about 125 Nigerians have landed the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport as fresh evacuations.
Yes.
And of course, this is good news to see that we have not relaxed on our husk to get people back into the country from this war-torn areas as of now. And we continue to see the efforts of the likes of Dabiri, Iwera, and all of the NEEDCOM and every facility that is involved with this. And Nigerians are thankful. 125, good numbers.
Yeah, definitely. Aside from the 2,518 stranded Nigerians that were evacuated from Sudan last month, of course, we see that the National Emergency Management Agency also planned a mob operation to bring those still stranded back to the country, and that's why we see 125 back in the country. They came in, of course, from the Taco airline, left Port Sudan International Airport as of Saturday and landed in Nigeria. The flight was expected to arrive Abuja at 5:45 p.m. Nigerian time, but we'll just take a listen at some of the things that were said in this particular footage. and we'll wrap up on this conversation.
To be here. But because we have committed leaders, we have insisted that we should drive the process to the end. That is why you see yourself back home. We promise we are not going to abandon anybody, and the government has made it possible. Your coming back into this country after the directive of Mr. President, we have some organizations that made it possible. First among them, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the National Emergency Management Agency, the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. We have NAPTIP with us here, and we have the Nigeria Diaspora Commission. So you can see it's a conglomeration of everybody to ensure you are back home. And if I still have traces of students among you, you can see my message here, Mama around Sudan, Ajay the river. We have been on your case long, and we have said we will run the process together. While welcoming you back home, we want to inform you that we are coming back safe and safe and safe and safe country. I'm sure you will not want to go through the experience you went through Sudan. So as you go into the society, behave very well, pray for peace to reign continuously in Nigeria so that you and I can enjoy the dividends of democracy for the last administration.
Of course, this is the first set of evacuations done since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed office on May 29, and it goes to show that work is continuing, especially with regards to this. We also had reports that about 160 women were claiming to be Nigerians but did not have passports to show.
Exactly. And you remember that last week we talked about refugee, World Refugee Day.
Yeah.
So when I looked through that report, I'm like, okay, so maybe these set of people, they just see Nigeria as a very safe haven, a safe abode for them to be able to just come and look for respite and succor, and maybe they would integrate into the country, maybe they would go back to their country, because if you're saying that you're Nigerian, you should be able to prove that you're Nigerian by showing your your passport.
Well, there is a process that is going to be followed by NEMA to be, to sift that, so that they are careful not to, evacuate people that are not Nigerians. There is a process, and the NEMA director, Mustafa Ahmed, has said they are going to follow due process to make that happen. But this is good, and more Nigerians are getting, reintegrated to society. Like you also mentioned, there is a plan across board to make sure that everybody settles in properly. The students, there is a processing for them to get back to school for those of them that will be interested. So this is some good news. So far, 2,518 plus 152 persons. We are making progress, and this is good news. But at this point, let's move to the news brief desk, where Mary Joseph is in standby to bring us tidbits of global news. And when we return, there's more conversation to be handled on Rise and Shine this morning. Do stay with us.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by Constitution. Our governors have to share police power with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my Lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the matters counsel is leaving evidence in our matter.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding you,
Lord, sorry, Lord, I think I'll be in process.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. for Legally Speaking.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Aniekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories on how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
One truth.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum. Live from Uyo, I am Mary Joseph. Begin the news brief with the report that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will reportedly return to the country on Tuesday, a day before the Salah celebrations. Reports say the president would spend the Salah holiday in Lagos, the nation's commercial hub. Recall that Tinubu has last concluded his official trip to Paris, during which he participated in the summit for a new global financing pact hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron. Away from that, British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Richard Montgomery, says the UK government's new policy on the restriction of foreign student visas is aimed at managing the pressure on social services for scholars. He further stated this during an interview with newsmen in Abuja, as he explained that the policy was not targeted at discouraging Nigerian students studying in the UK. He, however, urged Nigerians to see the new visa regime in the UK in a broader context, which he said is a really positive move for Nigeria and the United Kingdom. Back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino has warned local government chairmanship and councillorship aspirants for the next local government elections to exercise restraint in their bid to avoid frivolous spending, emphasizing that the whistle for the race is yet to be blown. Governor Eno, who was addressing the local government chairman during an event in Uyo, noted that he was aware of activities of some chairmanship and councillorship aspirants and stakeholders in some local government areas who have started spending their hard-earned money on consultations for the position, even when the state electoral umpire is yet to clarify on such issues and wants such power-seeking persons to put their intentions on hold until an order is given to such political venture. On the foreign scene, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Russia's crisis involving the Winger Group's aborted revolt against the Kremlin has exposed real cracks in President Vladimir Putin's authority. Meanwhile, China says it supports Russia in protecting national stability in Beijing's first official remarks on the short-lived armed uprising. Wenger fighters are reportedly leaving Russia's southern Verkhovnets region, and the local government has said that after the mercenary group stopped a dramatic rebellion against Moscow. And finally, in sports, Kalidou Koulibaly has become the latest Chelsea player to move to Saudi Arabia after the defender completed a transfer to Al Hilal for an undisclosed fee. This centre-back, 32, joined Ruben Neves at the Saudi Pro League side following the Wolves midfielders' €47 million switch. Meanwhile, Chelsea midfielder N'Golo Kante has also agreed to sign for Saudi's Championship Al Ittihad, while teammate Eduardo Mendy is close to joining Al Hilal. Meanwhile, Koulibaly signed for Chelsea for Napoli last July on a 4-year deal. We'll have details of this and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's get back to Rise and Shine, where we have Janice and Uyai on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
This was the Lagos, Nigeria today as we want to recover for the lives in the county.
Many thanks for still being there. Of course, it's still Rise and Shine, and we just came off the news brief desk where we had Mary Joseph share with us some details of global updates there. But just to get you up to speed with some of the major conversations we've had today, don't forget, today is International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. And the theme for this year is actually People First, Stop Discrimination and Stigmatization. So let us stop that as well. And looking at the major stories, of course, Nigerians reacting to the absence of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to some very pivotal conversations during the global financial summit that was held in France last week. Nigerians are reacting on that, of course, against other things as well. But we also had conversations of fresh evacuations from war-torn Sudan, where we had 125 Nigerians land in Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport as well. And of course, Nigerian government through the NEMA is saying that they have returned to a very, very safe country. Let's see how that goes, and let's also see how they will be reintegrated back into the society. But at this moment, we'll just take our daily spotlight, where we get to share with you details, or rather stories, on the front page of our national dailies.
Daily Spotlights, information from the front pages of our national dailies. Let's start with the Punch newspaper this morning. And the very big story there says Naira devaluation pushes up vehicles duty by 40%. Customs raise exchange rate from 422 Naira to 589 Naira per dollar. Operators kick as import duties jump. Economist berates federal government, says policy will cause job loss, impoverish Nigerians, worsen hardships. Debt servicing rose to 1.24 trillion naira in Q1 of 2023. Page 14 is where you can find details. Discourse failed to remit 208 billion naira, says federal government. Page 30. Lagos Ibadan gridlock traps motorists for hours. Page 5 and 5 is where you can find details. We also have here 452,443 UTME candidates jostle for 78,578 medicine spaces. Masked gunmen kidnap Ogun businesswomen, villagers rescue farmer. Page 4 is where you can find details. Clerics warn Muslims not to borrow for Salah Rams. Okay, page 12. Quite laughable but very instructive.
Yeah, definitely. Let's take our next paper. Yes, we take our next paper now, and that is the Daily Sun. Daily Sun says the big story here is ISWAP, Boko Haram in supremacy battle. And the writer here says scores killed as group fight for territory control at Lake Chad and Borno. You can find that story on page 5. Moving forward, KYC, bank customers, experts oppose CBN's directive on social media handle, and you can find that story on page 25 of Daily Sun. We move forward now to all the stories. Salah, Muslim faithfuls lament ram foodstuff price hike. You can find that story on page 6. JAM, 482,356 candidates jostle for 78,578 admission spaces in medicine and pharmacy. Page 29 is where you get details of that story. Aviation unions right Tinubu warn of industry collapse, and the writer says demand 40% IGR deductions from NCAA others. Page 25 is where you get details. of that story. Kogi Guba, ACF chairman, worried over rising violence. Page 28 is where you get details of that story. We also see here IGP to meet mobile commanders, promises improved security. Page 5 is where you get details of that story. And that's all we have on the front page of Daily Sun.
Moving from the front page of Daily Sun, let's look at the Nation newspaper. Big story: why discourse are bent on electricity tariff increase. We also see AEDC fluctuation of Naira exchange makes upward review inevitable. Okay, envoy: population of Nigerian students in UK rose by 107,000 in 3 years. Details is on page 5. Zenith Bank CFO Mukhtar wins Africa's award, page 20. Largest ever pilgrimage begins in Saudi Arabia, page 3. Experts optimistic despite foreign reserves drop to $34 billion. We also see here eminent Nigerians mourn mass communication prof Latoso. Page 3 is where you can find details. Dogara or Soba back petrol subsidy removal, service chiefs. Flood sweeps newlywed man in Ondo. Really sad story. Gunmen abduct 9 passengers. Page 5 is where you can find details. And that's all we have on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
We take the Nigerian Tribune now as our next paper. The Nigerian Tribune, the big story here says Nigeria's public debt rises to 49 trillion naira, and page 6 is where you get details of that story. Fluctuations in airfare traced to federal government unification of dollar markets. We also have over 122,000 Nigerian students in UK higher institutions. British High Commissioner tributes as renowned mass communication professor Lai Osu dies in car crash. Quite sad story. You can find details on page 26. Kano Court restrains Governor Yusuf from demolition buildings. Page 16 is where you get that from. We also have a story here on maritime. Nigeria's maritime industry loses $100 billion annually over non-implementation of cabotage acts. We have another story here: increasing suspense over Tinubu's ministerial nomination. On subsidy removal, Nigerians must reduce wastage, invest more, be innovative, says experts. Survival becoming more difficult for us, says private school owners. And I think that's all the stories that we have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, let's take our last paper for this morning, and that will be the Vanguard newspaper. The Vanguard big story: forex scarcity persists as CBN resumes intervention. We also see here banks ignore CBN's directive on domiciliary accounts. Exchange rates converge around 770 naira per dollar. We also have here governor's election. Elders Council raises alarm over Kogi's political violence. We also see here Zenith Bank's Mukhtar Adam wins CFO of the Year award. Autumn accuses Governor Alia of persecution. Page 10 is where you can find details. Court stops Kano government from further demolition. Page 10. Subsidy: lack of license, foreign exchange, others hinder fuel importation. Page 5 is where you can find details of that story. We can also see here why we recommended suspension of 23 LG chairman Benue speaker. Page 10 is where you can find details. UK waiting for Tinubu to name ministers, says envoy. Page 9. Butcher stoned to death in Sokoto for blasphemy. Sad story. Page 6. We are optimistic of improved security, says AGIGP. Tackle insecurity head-on, Baptist Conference urges service chiefs. Page 9 is where you can find details. Dogara to Tinubu brings subsidy cabal to book. Page 27. Illegal mining. Taraba governor suspends activities. Page 10 is where you can find details. And we have here Niger Super 8. Rivers United win 5-goal thriller against Bendel Insurance for sport. And that's all we have on the front page of the Vanguard this morning.
Yeah, these are all the stories that we have on our front page. It's quite interesting stories this morning. But again, a number of it, calls for reactions. We see that the Central Bank of Nigeria is asking for social media handles of customers, and of course there are also customers that are kicking against this as well. Some say that it is politically motivated to see how they can gag a lot of people on social media, and it is absolutely unnecessary for for the Central Bank of Nigeria to be asking for social media handles attached to bank would I say credentials or bank
as
details?
part of BVN,
yes,
the
as
things the
part
bank
of
have.
details that you should be presenting to the bank.
I think the big question is what's the rationale behind that? Because what exactly does the bank operators need social media handles to do? It's not like it's an embassy or something, and it just calls for questioning the motive behind this kind of directive. What do they hope to find? What's the tally between money and our social media handles? And of course, that is one story that we need to unfold. Details are available on the papers this morning, but of course, even on Twitter, as at yesterday, a lot of Nigerians were kicking against it, as more suspected moves by the new administration to bring in policies that are coated with the face of people driven policies, but yet underneath more like they'll just be sapping the citizenry.
Well,
So
the central bank has also said that it is to identify, for the purpose of identification. So you're wondering, why should my social media be the means of identification?
What's my BVN there for?
When I can give you my BVN. BVN would say that they are generated from banks, right? So I can give you my passport photograph, because when you're filling details as to opening an account, of course your passport is there. And if you go to the bank as another person, to access a particular account, when once you type in details of that account, every detail that you had put in there earlier on pops up, plus your face. So if you have maybe before you went to open that account, there was nothing wrong with your face, and at some point you just have a scar, it will identify. At some point they will tell you that you're not the person there. So if you have your passport there as part of the details that you have submitted, what more does a bank need? Why would I begin to provide my social media details for you to be able to give me an account in a bank? It doesn't really make sense.
Let's not even forget how much we have been in a bad place with the banks and internet services. Internet banking has been a problem, and then Nigerians will say, instead of balancing out and looking for a way that our monies will not continue to hang and put people in difficult places, you still want to use that internet infrastructure that is not good enough for internet banking to now put social media handles, the trafficking of all of that on your networks, when you cannot use it for the most important thing. We have continued to have conversation on misplaced priority as a nation. Look for initiatives that will move our financial systems forward and leave social media handles alone. Go back to the summit that was just done in France now. Find out what the conversations were. Tally it, with economic conversations for the country, and help us move forward. Social media handles and identification of people that are banking with you doesn't really make sense even to the common
Now,
man.
talking about even translating all that happened, or going to France to look at things that people have done. A lot of Nigerians are waiting for the outcome of the president's visit to France actually at this moment. So it's anyways, the Central Bank of Nigeria is saying that, and I'm going to quote them, to provide additional customer due diligence measures for financial institutions under the regulatory purview of the Central Bank of Nigeria to further compliance with relevant provisions of money laundering prevention and prohibition. So I think they have a good reason there. when you're talking about Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act MLPPA 2022, Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition 2, Central Bank of Nigeria Anti-Money Laundering, Combating Financing of Terrorism and Counter Proliferation Financing of Weapons of Mass Destruction. So all of this put together is what the Central Bank of Nigeria is saying, look, for you to be able to do any banking transaction, let your social media be attached to it as well. But it brings me to a particular concern right now. I remember during the campaigns, it was the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party that made mention of it. The majority of those up north do not even know what social media is. So if you're even talking about terrorism and or the likes, you know, which is really more associated with the country, but then again, it is more towards that axis. How would you now use their social media to be able to track them and all of that? It's a good thing that maybe the Central Bank of Nigeria is saying, let us see how we can trace people, you know, through their social media accounts and all of that. But how many people in Nigeria today are using social media? And how many people are using social media with their real names?
Exactly, because another big question will be that that thought cannot skip me. There's something you said that was making me think real quick. How is social media, how shall we, that the legal interpretation of those quotations of the ML this, how do we know that the appropriate interpretation of those codes, you know, directly backs this move? Because sometimes again, how many people how many Nigerians will really go back to go and read those acts and get the proper interpretation to know that, okay, these codes and these acts actually back up this move by the Central Bank of Nigeria? Or are you just trying to, you know, bamboozle us with information and codes that some people may not go and read? Because then again, is it the duty of the Central Bank of Nigeria to track terrorism related cases? That, you know, yes, we would have the numbers and all of that for, you know, financial incontinencies, yes, but then again, this still overall looks like misplaced priority. Don't put more roles on the Central Bank of Nigeria than is necessary for the agency.
Anyway, serious concerns there, but that's the much we can take on our paper segments this morning. Of course, daily spotlights. We'll just take a breather now and try to connect with our guest, who is an educationist. Of course, the student loan has been brewing a lot of controversies around the country. You know, the pronouncement that came on June 12th backing students' loan in Nigeria, more like the APC government were putting it across like this is a democracy gift to the young people of Nigeria. But then again, a lot of controversies and concerns across the country. When we come back from this particular break, we'll be talking to an educationist this morning. Of course, Dr. Peter Ugudoro will join us virtually to give more light to this particular student loan bill. Is Nigeria actually ready for it? This is the question on the lips of many. We'll be right back shortly.
Child labor being the employment of children under the age of 18 in a manner that restricts or prevents them from basic education and development is pervasive in every state of Nigeria. In 2006, the number of child workers was estimated to be about 15 million within the country. Between 2012 and 2019, 31% of female and 32% of male children in Nigeria were involved in child labor.
Child labor has been a serious issue in the society. What could be the cause and how can it be prevented? Let's find out.
Child labor is a way of using children, you know, for free labor and, you know, trying to use them without payment, which is actually wrong. Because indeed, a child is somebody that you are supposed to take care of. A child is somebody that you are supposed to protect. A child is somebody that you are supposed to educate up to a level whereby the person is individually responsible for himself. But when you put a child into labor, it means that you have taken away what he's supposed to contribute to the society. He's somebody that you have used, and at the end of the day, he is not productive anymore. And when he's not productive, what is he going to contribute to the society? Nothing. So why don't we try and educate these children to be responsible citizens of our country? And when they are responsible, you will see at the end of the day, they are able to take care of the country. They are able to be something that our country will be proud of. And when we are proud of them, we can definitely say that we are leading for a better future.
Child labor is when someone just send their child or children to somewhere to go, maybe because they don't have something in the house or some, so that the children will just go for experience. Because I've met a woman one time, she was like, okay, my child can't live with me because the child has to go to somewhere so that they will learn new skills, they will learn new things.
Actually, we are actually fighting against it, because if you check now, the rate of child labor in the 90s has drastically reduced now, because we now have family planning. Not like my late uncle had 12 children, and he will even tell you that if he had the opportunity, he will have more. But is there resources to take care of those children? Because child labor has to do with inadequacy to take care of your children. So people now have to like come to that understanding that, okay, let me just have 2 children, 2 offspring, and it's better I use all my resources to take care of them than having 10 children, 8 children, and I can't give them the best of what life can offer.
In Nigeria, it is particularly prevalent due to poverty, lack of access to education, and a cultural acceptance of children working from a young age. Many children are forced to work in dangerous and exploitative conditions, depriving them of their childhood and putting their health and safety at risk.
Presently, it's increasing because there are so many out of school children. And where are these children being placed in the society? They are being sent to do breadwinners of their family. And in order to secure this bread for the family, they have to engage in all these menial jobs. And that's why, and that's the reason that many people that engage these children exploit them, engage them in all forms of abuse and labor. So, despite the signing of the Child Rights Act in the country and in Akwa Ibom in particular, the implementation process has been very poor. The Child Rights Act was supposed to reduce the level of out-of-street children and engage them in formal education. That was the essence of the act. But presently, there are so many, the good number of vulnerable children, out-of-school children. And where are they? What is their place in the society? They are being sent to the society to fend for themselves and fend for the family. And from that extent, they are being engaged in all forms of abuse and labor. So, even in some part of the northern states, we have so many IDP camps. For them to survive, they will engage in all these menial jobs, menial labor. And that is the reason that you see so many people in the society capitalize on this to exploit them. So, in as much as do we see have them in the society, there's need for government to actually implement the law guiding the children so that these children could be, you send them back to school, engage them in meaningful things that it will be beneficiary to the state, to the country, and the society. So, there's the need for government not to do white paper this to the later, such that the children who have the hope of who are the future, the leaders of tomorrow, will have a hope, will have a place in the society.
A lot of things are the causes, because most especially are irresponsible parents. If you know you cannot take care of a child, why are you bringing the child into the life? You are supposed to be the one to take care of this child, not the child to take care of you. So most people are very irresponsible. You bring up a child and then you now tell your child to go and be working, hawking to bring money back to you. No, that is irresponsibility. Secondly, it's, well, let's say illiteracy. Because when you are not a literate person, you cannot take care of your child. All you think of is the means to an end, and which is not the thing that is supposed to be. As a parent, you are supposed to take care of your child so that that child will come out better than you. Not for you to say, oh, come and take care of me in the future.
I do observe that some parents, maybe act of negligence, they don't take care of their ward and their children by living up to their responsibilities. And one of the responsibilities is sending their children to school, which should be a very important role and one of the roles of the parents. So you see children being sending out of the school or staying away from school and be selling, and some of the children become breadwinners by selling to support the family. It's a very unfortunate situation.
Additionally, some children work as porters and scavengers, laborers in heavy city traffic, sellers of illicit drugs and illegal goods, child prostitution, and a growing number of them engaged in begging. Some are even trained to go and rob and steal for tiger adults and guidance, among others. The opportunity to receive education and develop the skills they need to succeed in life. They are also at greater risk of physical and emotional abuse. Early child prostitution, criminality and possession of criminal skills, increased general poverty and underdevelopment in society, as well as health problems caused by working in hazardous conditions.
My business is about buns. We produce egg roll, we bring it out for sales. After production, I sell from afternoon till around 4 o'clock in the evening. Because we have to do production during the morning time till it is afternoon. My brothers sometimes, if during holidays, they also sell the buns as well. But anytime they think there is midterm break, they also sell as well. But during school time, they do not sell. I'm the only one selling. What I have to say is that education is the best. Whatever you are doing, you should put education first, because education is the light. So they have to, like, because of the economy, because the way things are, they have to merge education, and maybe after going to school, they come back, they do some of their school homework before they come out for sales. Sometimes, mostly the men, they want to harass you, using some sexual. I take it as part of business. Take it as it is a challenge that you will always overcome, and it makes me to be stronger, emotionally strong.
When I go to school and come back, I'll come and sell. I'll sell from 10 o'clock. I'm staying with my mom and my dad. My mom is the owner of this egg. My mom is doing egg business. Then my dad is a tailor. I tell them they should sell or they should do anything so that they can go to school.
First of all, as a mother, when you look at most often when you see the way these children are being treated out of school, especially for those that maybe are taken up for labor in homes and in maybe some I believe most of these parents should actually go to where they give their words to and observe what these children go to physically, emotionally. Then they would appreciate that maybe the incentives they get is not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Yes, appealing to the parents themselves. Then another thing is maybe there should be a little more of awareness in the sense that if you see your fellow, maybe you are like 3 families on your street living, and one of the other family has put in extra efforts to send their children to school. The education they got now paid off. It's a way of encouraging. I hope they will not see that spiting instead. If you can bring out families that have actually been able to deny themselves, let me put it that way, and put their children in school, it tends to be better. They are more enlightened. So if there could be a way, there could be interaction with all this, I believe, because there's nobody that would want to be relegated to the background.
Oh, well, yes, I think it is, but I think we still need to do more. Like I said about it, because most times when these crimes are committed, they are put behind bars and more publicity is not done for people to know about it. But at least when it's publicized, people get to know that when this is done, that there is a punishment that goes with it.
Provision of free and compulsory education for all children is one way of ensuring that they have the opportunity to develop the skills they need to succeed in life. It will also help to reduce poverty and improve economic opportunities.
They are on the increase. They are not reducing, especially in the north. The recent indexes I've seen, it's actually reducing in the south but increasing in the north. So what I think they should do is that, first of all, there should be policies, educational policies for primary education. That's because government should provide basic education amenities. Like if you visit some of the places where you have children studying, you can't even spend an hour there. The roofs and the decks and everything. So government should first of all fix these things, create a standard level of education, make it affordable. It won't cost government anything to say, look, we provide free educational materials for children, like uniforms, uniforms and then shoes and other things.
What I think the government should do is for the government to make some funds, or they can just pay the parents or just make free and compulsory education for the children so that they can go to school.
The parents have moral duty to take care of the children that they are brought to the world. Yes, the society will see engage their children in public school. At least public school. When you engage them, they have future. The parents should know that their children have future. So based on that, they should engage them. I will urge the parents not to allow their children in school. It's a basic. Getting to school is a basic because you don't know what the child will become tomorrow. But when you send them out there to serve as a house help, house this and that, it will not help the children to send their children to school.
I should think, because if you go to our public schools, most often it's not just a structure we need. We need competent hands at the helm of the authorities there. Without indicting anybody, I should think there should be people or bodies to monitor these children actually enforcing, because there are sometimes you go home, you are coming to work, or maybe for someone like me who go on night, you are going back home around 9 in the morning, you see street children around. If you had like a body or a regulatory, like a system that checks that, a child knows that if I'm out of school at 9, there's somebody that will pick me up, and the parents would be more encouraged. No matter how not easy everybody is saying it is, they will be encouraged to take their words to school.
I think what government need to do in terms of child labor is they should really go to the grass. So if the government can come up with an agency that will go down to the grassroots. During campaigns, we see government, they go to every door, nooks and cranny. But when it comes to things like this, they only focus on the elite. So if they can call dialects, not just in English, explain to them the disadvantage of not having quality education or quality welfare for your children. So you have to just see how you can have that family planning. And
the government, like in Akwa Ibom, the government has done a lot because they provide free education. But you can see that some parents don't even send their children to that free school that the government has given. So I think the government has done a little. but they can still do more. Cannot read. 9 years old, they cannot read. So that means that there is still work to do. Most teachers are not interested in taking care of these children. Oh, they cannot read, then they push them away. But you keep pushing them and pushing them. What do you expect them to be? Empower the teachers a little so that they can, promote the growth and education of these children.
The 10th National Assembly, Godswill Akpabio, signed the Child Rights Act into law to protect the growth of perceptual, emotional, under 16 years. The law protects the Akwa Ibom child from birth to adolescence, opportunities to assume responsibilities within the community. Sadly, the goal of free and compulsory education in the country and Akwa Ibom.
So government should make a policy that between the hour of 7 and 12, if you are a child, if you are seen in the street hawking, all right, that child should be picked up. Possibly the parents should be arrested. As there's nothing wrong coming back from school and running business, but when you are actually in the street, roaming around the street during school hour, it's something that government need to make a policy either to protect these children from malhandling of the parents or guardians.
Had reduced. They were no longer on the street, but during this recent government, I observed that during the daytime, during the daytime, children still hawk on the streets. They're not going or something. So I feel that the government should, during that time, I heard that there were some agencies that were enforced to walk streets, walk during by the road, such agency again. Then I feel that there is need for parents too to not be too greedy with their children. What I mean by that is that where would you get that energy from? Like he goes out by 6 to hawk things. Let's say for example, Akara then comes back by 9. Then don't you feel like that kind of child go to school, you will sleep? That if you even go mostly parents that are not educated, not parents that are exposed. Parents that are not educated feels that since they didn't go to school, that school is not really much. So I feel that government should organize some programs in rural society. For 4 years ago, people valued education again, but I've observed that now they are, they are tending to go
this kind of thing. To stop this, it will help. Most of the time, when I'll be going to school, I'll be seeing children are supposed to be in the classroom. I believe that governments should do a lot. I observed during the past administration that they start to do the feeding program. It was a very nice and welcome development. And I believe this government force to monitor any child that is seen of school age should be at least arrested. And also stubborn children should also be punished. They will have a way of punishing them. Because some parents do try their best, but the children don't try to see what the parents are doing. So parents should also be, in fact, the child labor will be reduced.
I will advocate for increased sensitization. It's really helping. Like I can remember during the days of what they say, don't have the days you will come to Akwa Ibom and pick house help. It's no longer available, available. So most schools should be provided. And in addition to the free and compulsory education, they should provide books and go an extra length. And
during that time, there was subvention for schools, for school to use in taking care of these children. But in the last, yes, because no subvention for school, the welfare of teachers are not taken care of, the retirees, there's no radio.
Child labor, which includes street hawkers, bus conductors, traders in the open markets in nation's development.
The number of out-of-school children and child labor has been on an increase. Residents of Akwa Ibom State have called on the state government and the federal government to send their children and ward to school. My name is Esther Oktoyo. Enjoy the rest of our program on Spectrum.
We sincerely do apologize for not bringing guest as we were on an educationist to talk about the student loan that has been signed into a policy by this present administration. But watching through that report, Nigerians that we have in the country, over 20 million over 20, country, and has come a long way, is child labor. When you find children, about a child going to hawk akara, for example, and then school, what's the level of concentration that child, people and all of that. So where will the concentration come from? Of course, that child will be suffering from tiredness in the country right now, in terms of child labor and out of school children.
Several causative factors, especially it takes my mind back to the endeavors by the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan administration to make sure that, for instance, in the north we had lots of out of school children,
our Marjories,
just lots of will I say just policies and things. Our Marjories went to school, and then bring it back here to Akwa Ibom State. The Godswill Obotakpabi administration, one of their initiatives was to have free education for children. In the time when he was governor, that was a big thing. But when we talk about successive governments being able to time after the administration that brought it to bear, you look at the fact that and then there's also the question of how free is this free education. You can find out that parents still need to pay for one thing or the other, which is still a lot of burden for the parents, because in actual sense they cannot afford it. So we are seeing the parents and children need to now come together to do things to keep themselves afloat, just in a bit to get some form of education. Another big question will be, in these public schools that have an attempt to provide free education,
to get to learn, do they have those environments? I think sometime last year we brought about issues where on bare floor. Remember the story? Was it in Kwara State now, or one of these western states, where we had children that were in examination classes cried by Nigerians before the government had to stand up to go and buy desk? And then we were asking, where did the money all of a sudden come from? For them to provide
secondary education boards doing shop and provide those things. It's such a sorry situation, but then monies are being voted nationally for the education sector, no matter the token that is going to. But then when we are talking of out of school children and child labor, poverty is the biggest causative factor. With about two hands of the husband and the wife cannot even cater for their children, so some of them try to get their children on board. The first 3 periods might have elapsed in classes already, so there's just a lot of things now.
And then when the child comes back, how do they
lessons.
even read to be able to pass exams properly?
Remember, we had a picture of a child that was trending because there was a picture of the child putting aside their tray of
to them and blah blah blah.
So with all of these things in place, you see a lot of these children also pushing. The grind that a child has to go against to succeed at that rate is a lot, and also it's mentally sapping also. So we are looking at what are the roles of government thing for us. What's the roles of multinationals that are in our country? For instance, when we come to Akwa Ibom State, ExxonMobil has been here upwards of 50 years. What are the kinds of
hosting
that
them
can hold them for several years, and the vulnerable in the society? We can always give back. Like we asked one time, and I'm of the opinion, if you graduated from a certain school and you're doing well now financially, on the 500,000 naira, get desk into classrooms. When we keep waiting for the government to do a lot of things, it will not get done, because for some reason that
for the government to do, right? Because these are basic things that the government is supposed to provide for its citizens.
Absolutely correct.
So I go back to my school to try to give back to the foundation that molded me intellectually, right?
Provide a platform for other children.
Yes, but then again, relax. Oh, they are going to do it. But these are the basic things that we get to vote for you for. Now we are even. I'm even feeling pained that we did not have Mr. Peter Ogudoro, join us as an educationist, because these are things that he has continued to. We are also struggling with teachers that are trying to get even their remunerations from government. So government is owing these teachers what
a certain school, and I'm reading the grammar written on the board, and I'm like, you're having primary one,
and they will stick to it. My auntie, even when you're trying to tell them this is wrong, my auntie said.
So we're also looking at the work to be like, okay, I'm training the next generation. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine, who's from Akwa Ibom, but then has a Yoruba tongue, when we were coming our indigenous accent. And because when we say the children are the future of tomorrow, how are we equipping them to be able to take on these fast change AIs, and we are having technological intelligence being introduced into the mix? That's a lot of things. Not even talk about the fact that we have churches running really expensive education, that the less money, you know, to put up the schools, but what they can be an initiative within all of that that makes you cater for the vulnerable within even your churches or even the societies where your churches are hosted. So there's a lot of ways we can meet.
Or some of the way forward that has been put forward by some respondents in this particular report. If some of them Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as of when he was governor, he did this. He called for free education for, you know, indigents and children. Bring that back. Let us bring that back to Akwa Ibom State, where you see children hawk, you arrest, and then you see them moving around, because children these days too, we also blame them a little. There's always school hours. You arrest them and ask questions. Creative factor is poverty. And it's something that the government needs to deal with. If it's been a wonderful time here on Rise and Shine. I think this is where we just have how Nigerian students feel about this particular bill passed by this. Advent continues on our Twitter handle at Spectrum T Online. So do well to join us there and keep the conversation.
Television. Let's see you all on social media, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng.